Welcome to the Deep Chat.
So Kyle, do you think that the WGA agreement with the Writers Guild has any bite, or is a nothing burger?
From my initial read of these facts that are just coming out, I would say this is pretty much a nothing burger. I'm not impressed with what the writers got for themselves.
I agree as a nothing burger. What does it say? So we should cover that real quick.
Yeah.
There's three main things that the WGA did get. One, AI is not a writer. It can't write or rewrite literary material and cannot be considered source material. So if I'm just reading this from a news article. If any of the materials initially given to a writer for a project were generated by AI, that has to be disclosed, and no use of AI will affect the writer's credit or pay for a project. Second, writers are allowed to use AI programs as long as they follow any company guidelines, but companies cannot require a writer to use an AI program. Third, the WGA reserves the right to assert the MBA-covered material can't be used to train AI. So the material that the writer gives cannot be used to train AI. Okay, so those are the three main things. So why is this a nothing burger? In my perspective, one of them is a weird one and weird requirement that they negotiated anyway. That is, writers are allowed to use AI programs as long as they follow any company guidelines. Now, how do you even enforce that?
Yeah, that's pretty much impossible.
This is something they could have done anyway. They were probably already using AI programs to write their scripts to some degree, or summarize scenes or summarize a script.
However they want. It's a tool.
The enforceability of that would, well, the only way to enforce it would to be by putting security and software controls on the computer the person uses and monitoring it.
Yeah,
And
some heavy-duty monitoring.
that would be some heavy-duty monitoring that writers are not comfortable or familiar with.
Nor is there an advantage. Like, why would the studio do that? They're only hurting themselves.
Right, exactly. So I don't really know the intent of that. I'm trying my best to understand why they cared about this aspect.
It's also weird that they want it disclosed if you're given materials that came from AI. I don't know why anybody really cares about that.
Yeah, I don't know that it's either good or it's bad. It doesn't change what I'm going to do with it.
If I was the studios, I would give that up immediately. Like, I don't care. Okay, I'll disclose it. Like, what do you want?
Right, as if that's a win.
Yeah, like it doesn't change anything really. It just is information.
Clearly the studio wasn't fighting for that. Yes, we would like to disclose when we use AI, but clearly the Writers Guild was. But to what end? So let's play devil's advocate here. Like if you're the WGA, why do you care about having rules that say a writer can use AI?
Oh, wait, I think I might have just figured it out. Okay, I'm going to be the evil studio.
Right.
And I'm going to write most of the script with the AI, and then I'm going to give it to you and be like, hey, I can't pay you to be a writer. This is a cleanup project. It gets a tenth the pay of a writer. Will you just go clean up and do one pass on this script?
Exactly. That might be part of it.
I feel like that's a transactional thing. If I'm a writer, if I'm an up-and-coming writer and a studio offers me that crappy opportunity, maybe I'll take it because I need an opportunity.
I think their fear is that the first draft of every screenplay will then become written by an AI, and they're calling it a, like you said, a touch-up or a ghostwriter position, and who gets credit for it. I guess from their perspective, they're starting to gather data on how often AI is used in that regard and try to force disclosure early so they can start to renegotiate these contracts later when this becomes a problem.
Oh, yeah, maybe it's about who owns what, I guess.
Like, because this could get messy with credit, right? Like I'm the studio, I deliver a screenplay to the WGA writer. I try to tell them, okay, well, you're going to rewrite this because the bulk of it is already there. The rewriting process is practically you throwing out most of it because it's crap, because AI sucks,
Sure.
at writing an entire script. Well, what do you do then? Do you go back to square one? How do you negotiate? I don't know what the process is for those writers right now, but I imagine the magnitude of the changes and the pitch that the WGA writer would give to say, hey, look, here's what I think needs to be done to this script. And then the negotiation process about how much they're going to get paid, that's probably already baked in right now. It doesn't matter where you start from. If the professional writer reads an AI script versus a human written script, they're going to say, hey, this is what I want to do with the script. This is how much it's going to cost you. So I don't know where the AI comes in and why it matters.
I'm with you. It seems like an irrelevant point here.
And I'm trying to look at it from the WGA's perspective. So let's look at the other one from the WGA's perspective,
Yeah.
that writers are allowed to use AI as long as they follow company guidelines, but companies
course.
cannot require a writer to use any AI programs. We already said that that was silly, but let's try to look at it from the WGA perspective. Companies cannot require a writer to use AI. What advantage would a company get to say you must use AI?
I mean, maybe a better quality of workmanship, but
Faster?
maybe. But like the employee should want both of those things too, you know?
Right. There already seems to be a mutual understanding that I am going to deliver the best script possible in the shortest amount of time. That's ideal for everyone, right?
Well, I mean, I doubt if many writers are optimizing for shortest period of time. I think, and I've never done writing the way you have. I think that's a thing where you get embroiled of like there's a deadline and it's a scary thing, you know, and you want the work to be the best it can be, which takes more time.
Yes, and it generally is that way. As you're writing, it takes a little while to get in the groove, and if there's a deadline, you tend to write the most towards the end of the deadline.
Sure.
It's just the nature of things.
Well, what if there's some prima donna writer who never makes their deadlines and there's all this money in jeopardy and the studio says, "Look, you got till a week from Friday to finish this and after that we're going to finish it with AI." The studio no longer can de-risk in that way.
You're right. The studio can't de-risk in that way because they are not allowed to rewrite literary material, right?
Yeah.
First off, that implies AI is actually good at writing, and I don't know that it's good at writing movies yet. So this is projecting.
Fair enough. Maybe to do the draft though, it could finish it, add the one missing scene that the guy couldn't finish, something like that.
Sure. I'm still hung up on why they thought that to put in the restriction that companies cannot require a writer to use an AI program. I don't, why would you care as a studio to require someone to do it?
I mean, what if today the studio said you need to finish this, but you need to finish it in the tone of like more of a Quentin Tarantino, not your own style? I mean, isn't that just you doing your job then?
Well, it would be just using your job, but you bring up an interesting point. At that point, what AI might be good at is taking the dialogue and converting it into a Quentin Tarantino-esque dialogue.
Oh, that too, yeah. But I meant more specifically, like, if I'm a screenwriter and I'm hired to write a script and they give me feedback, I don't think I get to say no.
No, you can obviously, but they might move you off the project, right?
I mean, I guess I wouldn't say like, hey, you must use AI right now, but I might say you must achieve some other goal, and I would advise you strongly to try the AI because we know it can do it, or we'll put you on a different project. Although maybe that's the line that just got crossed. I don't know.
Well, right. So to your point here, it seems like companies cannot require a writer to use AI programs, which I still can't find out why. But what a studio could end up doing is saying, look, there's a deadline here. We know you don't want to use AI. We can't require you to use AI, but we strongly suggest that you do. And that's all they'll say. And what is the writer going to do? Are they going to say no? I guess if they meet their deadline, it won't matter. But
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants. They want the deadline met. But yeah, it's a weird one.
But who is requiring? Let's project forward 10 years, 5 years. Screenwriting is generally good, and it comes up with a decent basic script. Why would you want to require someone to use it? I would think it would be for speed, because you know that you generally get products faster. And I would think that it might be because of consistency, that if they have an AI model that they trust,
yeah,
they can give it to the writer to leverage the writer skills in combination with the AI model skills and maybe get a more consistent product. So, here we go. Friends is relaunched, right? And they have an AI model trained on all of Friends, and it's really good at writing Friends episodes. But it still needs a writer to oversee it. The organization, the studio might say, hey, look, you must use this AI as your basis because it does a great job of creating shows. It's aware of every other show ever created, and it does a really good job. Now, we're happy to have you rewrite and augment it, but the basis for starting is right here.
Or slight variant on that, because I think we both agree AI cannot write a whole compelling episode of Friends today. Let's say the new writers, write some episodes and they say, guys, we love these, but just the one character Chandler, you just don't have his voice. We've trained this AI on all the originals. We want you to use it to rewrite all the Chandler dialogue. We just told them they can't do that.
Right. Exactly. All right. I think, that was a confusing one, but I think those are legitimate reasons why that might be in there.
I don't like it, but I would give it up in a second.
I see the argument from the studio side. I see that they want to be able to leverage these models and give them to the writers, and they want to tell them you must use it. Right? I made the argument for that, and I think it's a decent one. From the writer's side, I think the goal here is just to protect writers from becoming obsolete.
If I can be ordered to use this tool, then I'm really much more of a cog in the machine.
That's right.
If I make furniture, I don't want some guy from finance telling me which chisel to use.
That's right. And that's exactly, I think, the WGA's argument here is if they do come up with a model, let's take that scenario, they come up with a Friends model, and they levied it upon the writer. Now the writer is basically less of a writer and could be obsolete in the future. Maybe it paves the path for the writer and becoming obsolete, especially when you combine it with the next rule that they put in that they cannot use the writer's material to train AI. So if you think about it, in the interim period, if you required the Friends model to write Friends episodes, the writer produces something better than the Friends model, and then they retrain it, and they're retraining it constantly until the Friends model gets really good. Mm-hmm. So good that the writer can't be used anymore. So I think in concert, those two actually make sense when we start digging into it. I mean, I don't know that I 100% agree, but I can see the argument that each side made.
And that's a soft point, though. I think it's the no training part of the deal that is very surprising.
We have an extensive amount of screenplay data that things have already probably been trained on.
For sure.
The training is going to happen one way or another from other sources. All this is saying is that anything derived from WGA hired contracts cannot be used to train.
Yeah, but that's so weird because then it's like the AI, let's stick with Friends. They're going to do the relaunch of Friends. It's like we can't give it the old Friends scripts because of this.
I think that's true because those are probably all done under WGA contracts.
Yeah, I don't know how it goes in retrospect, but let's assume it goes back in perpetuity just to make the argument easier.
Yep.
It would still stand up with new IP. It's just there's no history yet. You're telling me that if we want to leverage AI, if the writers themselves want to be true to the original series and capture the voices of the original authors of those shows, that they can't use that data. They have to use a generic model that maybe learned about Friends from reading summaries of episodes on people's blogs.
I can almost guarantee you that someone has fed Friends episodes through something that outputs just the text.
Sure.
And now you have the script.
Well, you would almost have to put a burden on the trainer of the model or WGA to ensure that the model did not have these scripts in its training corpus.
Right. Are they using one of the open source models? Do they happen upon one of the open source models? And how do they know the provenance of the data that went into it?
Yeah, it's all solvable, but it's a complication.
Sure, it is a complication. I think that's the whole goal here, though, is to slow down the process of AI in screenwriting.
I don't know that it achieves that, but yeah.
I think it does for some time, based on what we've talked about.
Well, the only real loss is the no training, or the only limit, as far as I can see.
Yeah, it's a perceived loss, I think, with the intent to slow things down. But you and I both know that in reality, this is not going to stop anyone from taking an open source model and training something to make the Friends episodes on top of it. How many days of a project would it be for you and I to sit down, stream all the episodes of Friends through our Netflix account, text to speech it, and have basically character identification and everything all in a script-like format.
The only hard part about that is Netflix copy protections. If you could just send me MP4s of the episode, I could do that in a day or two.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's my point, is somebody will do it. If there's a need to do it, the data is going to be out there. There's too many places to get it. I think any savvy person, which I'm assuming there were savvy people behind this, probably have thought of that, but they're going to take what they can. They're going to get what they can from this contract to try to slow things down and to put processes in place that protect the writers and, again, slow down the march of AI. I don't know how long this is in effect for, but let's say it kicks the can down the road 5 years.
No way.
Then
5 months. This just created a market opportunity for someone to say, we have AI tools for your industry that are guaranteed to meet the, rules of the contract. That we can not only, we started from Lambda 2 as our training model, but we did some procedure where we guarantee we subtracted out all the scripts or something like that. You just need one company with a bold claim that makes it okay.
Yeah, but how do you subtract out all the scripts?
Oh, that's possible.
You'd have to start retraining, couldn't you?
No, not necessarily. So there's, and it's technical stuff, but like there's ways to, this is like a good area for like a master's student or a PhD to get into. There are ways to do this, mathematical ways to look at the embedding space and take parts of it out, or there are mathematical techniques. Off the top of my head, I don't have a lot to give you because I'm just kind of reading headlines of the preprint archive, but I see people working in this area. This will come around quickly.
All right. By the way, it's a 3-year agreement.
Oh.
So this kicking of the can down the road is going
that is
to
100% a kicking of the can. I didn't know it was 3 years.
3-year agreement means that AI is going to be so much farther along.
That's actually right, though, because they're going to need to renegotiate in 3 years. We don't know what 3 years from now is going to be like.
Yeah, and I think what they've tried to do is, again, slow things down in that 3-year period, keep getting writers paid, and I'm assuming that the other parts of the agreement involve getting paid for streaming and such. I haven't looked into that.
Yeah, I haven't either. That's the bigger point than AI is. Are they getting streaming analytics and residuals and stuff? That's a real thing to argue over.
Yes, right now, definitely. That is the bigger concern. But I think with the AI, they're trying to look ahead to the future that we've envisioned, where AI is doing a really good job of writing first drafts, or even episodes for Friends or whatever show it is. Imagine a show that's on for 10 years. I mean, I know a show that's been on 10 years. I got a friend who's on it 10 or 12 years. That seems like a no-brainer. Write a new and novel episode based on everything you know about it.
If it can, yeah. I don't think it has for sure it doesn't have the context window to do that today. From at a very mathematical level, the models can't produce that length of a document with coherence. But I'm not sure if window size improvements are all you need.
Yeah, we don't know that yet, but that'll probably be well known by the time they renegotiate the next contract in 3 years, right?
Probably.
I mean, window size will improve.
I mean, we'll know the window size will be bigger if that matters. There may be areas where, like how CPUs, we stopped working on them to some degree because we just want them in parallel. They got good enough. It could turn out to be something like that.
We both agreed that it was kind of a nothing burger. Now, I'm going to change my opinion on this and say that it isn't a nothing burger, because I think they did the best they could to slow things down, and I think that's all they could do. So from the perspective of the WGA, it strikes as a win to me because they won something significant, but that they were able to slow it down a little bit and wait those 3 years with some protections. It's not the end-all be-all, but they did accomplish something. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you make an excellent point. I would applaud them for making this the 3-year agreement, because the last thing anybody wants is people who don't understand technology making decisions about it. That's how we got the Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
That's right. So until next time, I'm curious to see how this all shapes up and how these new tools are used by the industry.
Exciting times.